Let me shut this down. Where is it? Okay. Once the scroller starts, then that's it. We're on.
Thank you.
I'm just going to let you roll. I'm going to ask you about each one of these points, and if you can be as brief as possible, save your time, your data, you know.
Okay, thank you. Thanks,
No
Craig.
worries. No worries. Just give us a short rundown of what's going on, and then we'll go from there.
Okay.
Okay, here we go. Okay, good evening, everybody. This is the Hawk again. I'm interviewing Carlo Foliun. Correct, Carlo Foliun? And
hi, Craig. Thanks for having me.
yes, and it's from the Cape Party, and he's going to explain their manifesto and explain what they're all about and their history. So, with no further ado, if you could explain how you guys were formed and what you guys stand for.
Thank you, Craig. The Cape Party comes a long, long way. Back in 1994, it started as an organization called the Committee for the Free Western Cape. Since then, we've evolved into a political party. Basically, what we stand for is a free, sovereign Cape of Good Hope. The Cape of Good Hope already existed since 1872 until 1910, when it was forced into the Union of South Africa. What we offer in the Cape of Good Hope is a direct democratic electoral system, the canton system, and an economic system based on the free market system of Singapore. Basically, the Cape Party is not a group of career politicians. We all businessmen, professionals that simply just had enough of South Africa. Me, for instance, I'm a 16th generation South African Kaapenaar. I was born here. I'm not going anywhere. So I had to make the decision. If I'm not going anywhere, how will I create a future for my children? Based on that question, I researched all the possible solutions that there is. And it came down to Western Cape secession, and the only party that offers that is the Cape Party. How we came to Western Cape secession is basically because the Western Cape is fundamentally ideology, traditionally in our language, we're different than the rest of South Africa. South Africa is different nations that has been forced together as an administrative function by the British. It's not a natural nation. We different nations with different ideologies and different cultures and different religions. So, and also why I came to the Cape Party is that I looked at all the other parties, and in order to have any meaningful policy to work, you have to have a majority in the national parliament. To do that, you need 201 seats. Now, it's impossible for even all the other parties put together to get 150 seats. So the next best option is to secede from South Africa, where we can take control of our own destiny.
I see that, and I was looking here at these. I like this word, constitutional racism. with regards to BEE, EEA, and AA. What does EEA stand for?
That is the Equality of Employment Act. It's basically affirmative, the legal term for affirmative action.
In an affirmative. Okay.
Yeah.
And corruption, biggest problem in South Africa right now. Complete ANC is corrupt. End of story. I agree. Okay, so trade, ports, air, rail, all that type of thing. Now, I've always advocated bringing in the U.S. to put a naval base in the Cape. That's my big thing, to stabilize that region. But that's in the future, hopefully soon. So with that, have you guys approached the ANC on these policies of secession? And I saw that the Khoisan King had filed a motion in the High Court to secede from the Cape, secede the Cape from the rest of South Africa. Was there anything that ever happened with that?
We have approached the ANC. We're actually working close with the United Liberty Alliance. We have been ignored. We asked the Premier of the Western Cape to call a referendum on independence. She has ignored us. With regard to the King, he has declared independence some time ago, yes. Unfortunately, our opinion is that it's not as simple as that. It doesn't mean because you have a right to own a firearm, you can just walk in and take it and walk out. There's a process, and we're following that process. Basically, what we're saying is we can't declare independence unless we have a mandate from the people of the Western Cape. And to get a legitimate mandate that the international community will validate, we need to have a democratic, legitimate referendum.
No, that's understandable. And based on the situation right now, I'll be truly surprised if you actually do go to an election based on all this rioting and upheaval that has happened. I'm actually surprised. And I also know that the ANC is approaching a lot of these other parties like the ATM and the ACO and trying to get coalitions to get together because they're worried they're going to lose this election. I know the Western world do not want the same mess in there anymore. So I'll be surprised if they do go to election. But besides that, have you guys tried a petition system where you could actually get every citizen, every registered citizen of the Cape to sign a petition to take it to the government? Have you considered that?
We started one, but like I said, the United Liberty Alliance has started a big official one, and we're working with them. Once they have their required signatures, we are working closely with them. And it takes a long time because, we don't have any media coverage in South Africa. And the only medium that we have is basically word of mouth, door to door, and the social media. And it's taken a long time to reach the amount of people that we have at the moment. So, it unfortunately, it's hard labor, but we are working on that, yes.
So I have a question for you. Should you get independence, should you get an autonomous state that is there, would you be able to take an influx, and you will have an influx, you would have an influx from all the other provinces into your province? Would you be able to maintain the influx of millions of people coming into there to try and, you're looking at another 2 to 3 million people outside of the Cape.
We are very blessed to have only 22 entry points into the Western Cape. We're surrounded by the oceans and the mountains, which is very easily controlled by a small force. No, definitely, like any other first world country, we'll have an immigration policy based on the best interest of the Cape of the Good Hope, which will come down if you cannot contribute. Then why do you want to come to the Cape of Good Hope? No, definitely we need to control who comes in.
Okay, and do you think you have enough land to sustain that amount of people in that area? And would some of the farmers give up some of their land to accommodate other farmers that need land?
We firmly believe in a free market system, so we're not going to interfere in the buying and selling of farms or taking land away from anybody who's legitimately bought it. Look, there's many modern farming systems, and if you look at Singapore, which was a muddied island with triple the amount of people we have, and that's only a fraction as big as the Western Cape, they're thriving. And of course, you can do imports, and there's many ways to overcome that. Food scarcity is definitely not a fear that we have at this time.
Yeah, no, I understand. No, that's great.
And also the entire Western Cape is a farming community. So yeah, no, I don't think that will be an issue at all.
Okay, and so you basically have a free market system, capitalist free market system running. Do you envision that should there be an independent thing? Do you envision a problem with the rest of the country disagreeing? And I understand, it's not just only white people there. There is blacks and colored people there. Co-san, do they agree with this idea? What's the consensus?
Our move towards an independent Cape has got nothing to do with race. It's all about logic, peace, and prosperity. We cannot have peace and we cannot have prosperity under a communist ANC government. Anybody will be welcome, and our biggest supporters are from the Khoi people. We just met with AITSA, which is the Alliance of Indigenous People, a week ago. They agreed to do the elections with us. They bring in 200,000 of their members into supporting the Cape Party. And also the system we offer is the canton system, where each community can decide how do they want to live in terms of their own values and traditions, if they wish to do so. So, no, raises the law. It's not a consideration at all. The Cape Party has no race policy at all.
Good. And I agree with the comments that were coming up there about the British. I believe that the British caused this problem in South Africa. I believe that when they came to the Cape and caused all this problem before, and then moved, actually just pushed the Afrikaners to the north, and basically annexed the area, causing the Anglo-Boer War, then committing all those atrocities on St. Helena Island. Not only that, the Union of South Africa was shoved down their throats. Apartheid was created by the British. I find it quite ironic that the ANC, the Mandela Foundation, is complaining about the flag, the old flag, but they won't look at the British flag, who caused more pain and suffering in South Africa than any other nation or group race in the entire country.
Exactly.
And I'll tell you why it's forgotten. The ANC, the ANC, EFF, and the BLF are funded by Absa Bank. They're funded by the British. I find it ironic that every single president that's in South Africa has to go kneel before the Queen after a month. You explain that to me. I never did find that. I never figured that one out ever. So there's something seriously flawed with this idea. To me, I keep telling the black people, you don't understand. Your problem is not the whites in South Africa. The problem is your outside influence and your politicians that are being bought by other people outside. I mean, listen, Mandela shouldn't have got the Nobel Peace Prize, nor did de Klerk get the Nobel Peace Prize. They sold their own people down the toilet. That document from 1993 proves it. I mean, it's a great idea. I can understand why you want to do it. My apprehension to it is, will this communist government allow it? And
Before I answer you, Greg, can I just answer Willie Decker that I saw wrote there that what about the white people outside of the Western Cape? Um, the Cape of Good Hope will implement the law of return, the same as the Israelis did it when they formed or became independent, which will not only promote and advise people to come back home, but also help them, because we want our families and our children and our people to come back home, because Willie Decker originated from the Cape, and he belongs here and he should come back home. And then to answer your question was, would the ANC allow it? Is that correct?
yes,
Look, that's why we're taking the long, hard route. We have to have the moral and legal high ground. In order to do that, we need to follow the legitimate process. Our constitution, or let me start this way, the Western Cape Constitution, Section 35, gives the Western Cape the right to call a referendum on any issue at any time. Now, when we have a mandate from the people in this election and we enter the Western Cape Parliament, we'll immediately start pushing for a referendum in the Western Cape. Once we've won that referendum, which I don't think will be an issue, because any person you ask, and all the research we have done shows that people vote for the DA, they don't even know what policies the DA have to get away from the ANC. So we're confident of a 68% win in a referendum. Now, we've got a legitimate win in a democratic, legitimate referendum. Our Constitution, Section 1, the foundation of our Constitution, says that South Africa is a country ruled by the rule of law, number one. Number two, that it's run by universal suffrage, which means that it's a democratic country. Yeah. So for the parliament to invalidate the will of the people, the results of a legitimate referendum will immediately turn them into a rogue state. And then, of course, you've got sections 230 and 231 of our Constitution that says our Constitution is subject to international law. Then you've got the African Union law that says we have the right to self-determination. And then you've got the United Nations Charter that says we have a right. So the law is on our side. All we need is a mandate from the people. Of course, the ANC won't agree to it, but it's the same as when you lost the case. It doesn't matter whether you agree with it or not. Yes. The law is on our side, and it will happen. And if needs be, we can secede under the protection of the United Nations or America or UK, like Belize did and Sudan did a couple of years ago. We don't need to do it by ourselves. That's why we're keeping the moral and legal high ground.
That's good. That's good. And it's true. If the law does not prevail, you have no law.
Yeah.
Yeah. And based on what I'm seeing in the country right now, the ANC is just hanging on for dear life for power, which is a sickness. It's just sick. Their BEE laws, their AA laws, the EE whatever laws, they're all the same. They all just corrupt to the point. And now the document from 1993 that was orchestrated and formulated by Ramaphosa himself is coming to fruition right now, because based on the fact that when Mandela died, they just escalated it. When Mbeki left and they put Zuma in there, well, Zuma's a criminal. He's an uneducated criminal. He's always been a criminal. Even from the days of Mlazi, when he was bribing everybody to work in different areas up there. The guy's a criminal. He's entitled.
Not only is he a criminal, the ANC is in illegal occupation of the Western Cape. They lost they have no mandate to govern us here. but still they govern us through being in control of our governmental departments. So we're actually under illegal occupation as we sit here today.
No. And so, what have you guys ever considered the United States of South Africa under a federal system and changing the constitution to a system like the United States, where each province becomes an autonomous state?
That's the ideal situation. The problem is that to get the mandate from the people north of the Cape, we have an ANC government because 70% of the people vote for it. And those 70% of the people that votes for it is north of the Western Cape. However, we've got a brother party that has recently started, which we helped to start up in KwaZulu-Natal, that's also pushing for their independence. So it's the seed has been planted all over South Africa, and soon, hopefully, that will help. Yes, but for us, as a Cape party, to try and get support north of the Western Cape, we need to be able to toy and talk racism and talk communism and talk land expropriation, which is against everything we stand for, and we're not prepared to do that.
No, I disagree with it. It's a human rights violation. I don't care what anybody says. And as far as I'm concerned, I will do it. I will fight the ANC, the EFF, and the BLF if they get into power. I will make sure there's sanctions put on their country so bad they will remember my name. I warned them. I warned them. They didn't believe me. A year ago, I warned them. And now there's voices everywhere screaming. They know who I am. I told them, you're making a mistake. And I even put it on Twitter yesterday that I warned you in 2018 that your irresponsible behavior with regards to land reform will create this problem. Now look at the country. It's ungovernable. It's a freaking mess. The entire country is burning. They're burning everything, putting trash in the street, burning it, raping, killing, murdering farmers. I know for a fact, and it'll come out, this country, people don't realize the world's a small place. There's satellites over South Africa that know exactly where everybody is, or they're listening to everybody's phone calls. They know exactly what's going on. They think they're immune to what's going to happen. I promised the ANC and I promised the EFF and the BLF that one day they will see me in the International Court in The Hague for crimes against humanity.
I'm glad to hear that.
The farm murders are deliberate. These were orchestrated by the ANC out of Sutuli House and by the EFF. And the criminals that have been arrested have been told that they were directed by these groups to kill farmers.
No, definitely. I agree with you. And that's what I love about the Cape Party. None of us are doing this for a position. We're all doing it at our own cost with the same passion that you have. I want to build a country for my children. I will fight the ANC and those communists until my dying breath, and I will create a place for my people to stay. And nothing and nobody will stop me. I will. And that's not just my attitude. That's the attitude of all the leaders of the Cape Party. We have spent millions of our own rand. We have spent our sacrifice. We have endured many.
What do most people want? They just want peace, prosperity, and be able to bring their children up with a good education, good medical insurance, good safe environment for their people, and everybody has a job and has money in their pocket. But the system, the South African government had 24 years to fix this. All they did was replace the nationalist government for the ANC. They did nothing else.
Exactly. We just got a new apartheid. It's just the colors has changed and the name has changed. There's nothing different. In fact, I think this is worse than the apartheid than before. And it's not going to last. And we also intend to take we're building on quite a few cases to take to the International Court. One of them is this land expropriation one, where we approached the Human Rights Commission to actually inform the government that what they're doing is against international law. The right to property ownership is sacrosanct. You cannot touch that. You know what they did? Absolutely nothing. So this is in our favor, because we can go now to the international court when we get to that stage and say not even our human rights commission will help us.
Well,
We had a court case, yeah.
the South
We had
African
a
human
court case the other day where we at the Equality Court, where we took a guy to court that made a big painting that simply states "fuck white people." The court found that to be art. Now we're building up all these little cases, and the ANC doesn't know it, but they are turning themselves into a rogue nation. And soon we'll see Zuma or Ramaphosa end like Gaddafi did.
You know, I'm going to put this to you in a straight way. I'm aware of 40 training camps in the United States, in South Africa right now, that are ISIS, Hamas, Iran, and Al Qaeda. The South African government is supporting terrorist groups in South Africa. They have training camps in Vlakplaas, in Youngsfield Camp, and a few other places. We know the locations. Another thing too.
Well, that's not surprising. The ANC is a terrorist organization. They're a communist organization. They freedom mind of, they call themselves freedom fighters. That is their DNA. They're not a government. They not professionals. That is their blood. So that's not a surprise at all.
They are becoming an international threat to an international group of the United States, mainly Israel. These are very dangerous people. You piss them off, and you're going to have a problem.
Yes.
Another thing too, they keep the ANC keeps trying to use this rhetoric about racism constantly. After they had the Truth Commission back in '94, where this was all settled, but as an excuse now they're using race as an excuse to try and get votes and incite the uneducated. And there again, they're promising free. There is nothing for free. Back in, I remember back in the 70s when I was there, in the 80s and the 90s, most of the schools were burnt down. Most of the children didn't go to school. That lost generation of education is now rioting in the streets. These are adults with no education, fed nonsense again, causing these problems. I can understand why the Cape wants to secede from this erroneous governance that is corrupt and inept. My problem is it must not come out as a racist. What worries me is because it becomes classed as apartheid again.
Oh, Craig, we've got that well covered. Our deputy president is a colored man, a brilliant young man with a master's degree in political science. Our first three on our candidates list is not non-white. The majority of our supporters are Kaaplanders, non-white people that's been living here 14 generations. There's no chance in hell that anybody can call us a racist organization or that it's based on race. It's based on ideology. It's based on capitalism against communism. It's based on a direct democracy that we offer against this electoral system that we've got now that is totally flawed. It's based on common sense. It's based on truly non-racial relationships between the people in the Western Cape. So yeah, I'm not concerned, and there's no chance of them of using the race card. We've been that's been thrown at us for the past 10 years, and we really learned to overcome that.
Okay, great.
And also, what I want to inform you is, imagine the benefits a country like America can have, or Britain, with a free market state at the bottom bottom of Africa, where the people can invest, a tax haven where, like you say, they can have their navy based, where our borders, our influx will be tax free. So yes, there's huge financial opportunities for the international world in the Cape of Good Hope.
And I agree. My organization is called the United South African Coalition, and the reason I started is because I saw so many splinter groups, so many groups fighting each other, and you cannot fight each other with once they can't fight, the whole bunch of you together is the only way to fight. To be a union of people. And listen, I don't care what anybody says. I was born in Africa. I come from British stock. I come from the Montgomerys. I come from the Scots. I come all the way back from David Livingstone, who was my grandfather. David Livingstone was my great-great-grandfather's cousin, right?
Oh, that's good. That's great.
So 1892, when he came to Africa, and my grandfather was nominated for on my father's side, he was nominated for the Victorian Cross in the First World War, and he was the chief health inspector for Natal. So my family are all British, right? All the way back. But guess what? I was born in Africa.
Yeah, once born here, it stays in your blood. And
Exactly.
it's impossible for me to leave this country of my birth. It's impossible for me to leave the blood, sweat, love, tears of my forefathers and run away. I'll stay here until the very end, and I'll make this country livable for my children.
So here's the thing. For me, I feel that every child born under that African sun, I don't care what color he is, creed, religion, I don't care. You're an African. Because Africa is not a color, it's a continent. It's a piece of ground. Yeah. And if you're born in Africa, you're not born in Europe. I don't think there's very many Afrikaans people that even relate to the past, to Europe in any way, shape, or form. Listen, your language is completely different. Your culture is completely different. Since 1652, there is no connection.
Yeah, I don't think I'll fit into a more cultured European community in any way. And just to tell you, the beauty of what the Cape Party offers is direct democracy as well. The beauty of that is that it takes away the competition between groups like we have it currently. It's you've got a white party and a colored party and a black party, and you have to wait. But direct democracy, you don't vote for a person and what he stands for. You vote for your water supply, for instance. You've got a water supply system. So you decide in your community who's in charge of that water supply. No politician will be in charge of that. And you can evolve that system to suit you best. So, there's always the power of recall. If somebody is not doing what they're supposed to do, you can recall them or remove them, and you can recall laws that's not working for you or update it. So that's also another beautiful thing of the Cape of Good Hope, is this direct democracy where there won't be the competition between groups or religions or creeds, because you won't vote for a group, you'll vote for the system that actually services you.
Do you believe that a lot of the South Africans would come back to South Africa if it was a stable environment in the Cape?
I get at least 5 messages per day from people that's left as long as 20 years ago that actually supports us and that will come back immediately. Yeah, so definitely yes.
So in closing, what is your message to the Cape and to the rest of South Africa with regards to voting for you guys?
The Cape Party wants peace and prosperity for everybody. We don't have a race policy. We want to build prosperity for everybody. We don't want to offer you a shoebox house. We want to offer you a huge, prosperous future. There's only one way to do this, and that's outside of the grip of the ANC. And there's only one way to get rid of the ANC, and that's through the Cape Party and through secession. We have a legal route route to do that. And if you go into any of our Facebook sites or onto our website, you can see the legal route that we'll follow. That's been followed by 110 countries before us. It's nothing new in international law. So there is hope. All you need to do is decide that you want it and then vote for us on the Western Cape provincial ballot.
Yeah. You know, there was a cartoon once. So hypothetically, this is the cliff, and here's the plank, and here's the plank, here's the politician, and here's all the people holding him. And once they step off, he falls off.
Yeah.
So, and I find it ironic that every time politicians start pointing fingers at other people, they never look at the three looking back at them.
Exactly.
The ANC is pointing fingers at white people constantly and blame, but they won't accept the fact that the Basasa law, the Basasa mess that they had, the ESCOM mess that they've got, all the different groups and provinces that are all collapsed, all failed, all been basically the guys in charge were corrupt, putting the money in their pocket instead of paying for the maintenance, especially like ESCOM. And like ESCOM, 16 billion rand. You can build almost every single family in the country a new house. Billion rand. I mean, it's just beyond even my mind.
Great. Actually, the Cape Party has brought an High Court application that's being heard on the 28th of August to declare ESCOM and load shedding a national disaster, so we can actually deal with it properly. The Western Cape Premier, Ellen Ziller, has filed a notice to abide, so that means we'll be able to have at least declared a provincial disaster. But of course, the state president has opposed it, so we'll see what happens. But besides that, coming back to the politician, you won't find a career politician in a Cape Party. All of us are going to resign after we got an independent Cape because of direct democracy. They won't be able to be politicians because the people in the local community will appoint their local policeman or person in charge of water supply, electricity supply, their home affairs. And if that person doesn't perform, he can be recalled. And that the people will also be involved in the system that services them. So it continuously evolves. It removes politicians totally from our lives and gives us the freedom to choose for and decide on our destiny by ourselves.
In other words,
so yeah, we're all very tired of politicians, and direct democracy gives us this opportunity to get rid of them. And also, it saves us 60% of the tax money that we're paying these people to feed of us. And, so I'm sorry, I get very excited when I start talking about these things.
Okay. You're just as passionate as I am about this mess that we're in. Hypothetically, what will happen to, one last question, what will happen, for instance, like Natal, where you have the Zulu nation, or you have the Venda nation, or you have all these tribal nations? Will these guys still have their autonomous regions? Should these provinces break away into systems like yours, do you think?
KZN is not as as organized as we are at the moment. At the moment, there's 9 different organizations in Western Cape pushing for Western Cape independence, but they are very strong in the idea, and they're growing very fast. So I won't be surprised if they even get it before us. So yes, at the end of the day, South Africa is going to dissolve into its natural state that it was before 1910. And every nation will be able to govern themselves like they were supposed to do. It's in our mentality in our politics is that whoever's in charge takes care of his people, and that is what's causing a lot of conflict in our society. So there's quite a few tribes outside of the Western Cape that's also pushing for independence. So soon the ANC will have their hands full of the independence flames that's picking up all over the country.
Yeah, it's true what this gentleman said. If you're in politics, if you get rich in politics, you're a crook, and that's so true.
Actually, especially our president Jack Miller has spent millions of rands into the Cape Party. I've spent my last cent on this election, so yeah, maybe I'm not a crook because we're losing money, not getting money.
You know, I find it ironic that Ramaphosa came into power as a poor guy, and now he's a billionaire, and he's the director of like 60 companies. Just appalling. Now his sons or his son-in-laws are all going to own Eskom, which was a public company before, which I find ironic. They borrowed money from the Chinese to buy the stuff instead of putting it back into the system. Absolutely, they stole the money, literally stole the money. Unbelievable.
That's insane, and that's the beauty of direct democracy. We could have removed him in a week with our power of recall. Now we have no power to do anything to him. He can just carry on for as long as he like.
Yeah, it's terrible. It's terrible. Anyway, sir, I appreciate you coming on and telling us what's going on. I wish you well. I hope this works out. And if you do become independent, I will guarantee you I will do my best to get you the military base in the Cape for the U.S. Navy.
Well, definitely. We want to be friends with America. Our international policy will be no enemy, no ally, because we just want to live in peace and prosperity, but we will most definitely welcome a military Navy base in the Western Cape and all the benefits. And we most definitely want to be friends with America and the Western world.
Mm-hmm. And as for Donald Trump, he's well aware of the situation going on. I can tell you right now, they get briefed every single day on the situation in every part of that country. So people just need to know that. Anyway, thanks again, sir. I appreciate you coming on, and I'm glad we could do this. And good luck for the election.
Thank you, and thank you for the privilege to be on your show.
No, it's my privilege. Thank you, sir.
Bye.
Okay, take care.
Thank you.